Welcome back, Wolfpack Verlis here, and with Riolu and Munchlax next up in the Sinnoh Pokedex, we might as well review them because they are competitively viable and very, very interesting to talk about. So Munchlax, we're just going to look at it first, no fancy graphics or anything, just jumping right into these strategies. Riolu is also pretty cool as well, so Munchlax is going to have an Eviolite set. Riolu actually isn't dependent on Eviolite for not being a fully evolved Pokemon, and that is actually really crazy to think about because it does some really amazing things. But first off, we gotta look at Munchlax and its comparison to Snorlax. So Eviolite, we've seen this item many times before. If the holder species can evolve, its defense and special defense are increased by 50%. So yeah, that's pretty powerful boost, and in a lot of situations makes it to where tankier, not fully evolved Pokemon can become tankier than Snorlax, than their evolution, than whatever. So let's just go and compare some stats. Right now, I was thinking about just going full defensive impish investment with special defense, and then we don't really need to invest on the hit points. The reason why we don't need to invest on the hit points, it's just a percentage gain. That if we look at it, going from 127 to 196, that's like 50% right there just off of EVs. Going from 412 to 474, not as impressive of a gain by comparison. So we're going to need to max out what we can as the lower stat if we want to be as tanky as possible. But that just means that we are in a predicament as well, that our defense is so low, but we need to boost it because the more points we put into it, the more we get out of Eviolite. However, with natures, you get a 10% increase with a beneficial nature to the base stat. So having a higher base stat total that you're putting nature on is just going to benefit you even more. So that way, if we have a beneficial nature in defense with our higher special defense, we're getting less points overall, but we are getting more defense. And since it's our lower stat, it's worth investing more into in this situation. Sometimes you do it with Pokemon like Pachirisu, other times you want to go balanced, or you just want to put the nature into the higher stat. Now, one reason why we can get away with this is because of Amnesia. Amnesia boosts your special defense by 2, and we're going to be running Curse, which only boosts your defense by 1. So, since we're going to get a slower gain on our defense, we can invest harder into it, because with Amnesia, boom, 1 Amnesia, now we're like ridiculously tanky. 2 Amnesias, and it doesn't even matter anymore. We're going to be like untouchable. So we really need to make sure our Curse is coming through for us, and then we just get to compare it to Snorlax. So I have the same Snorlax right here, and this is where we kind of look at the stats. So overall, 462 compared to 412. So we do have a bit less hit points, but our defenses are higher. So 196, that's going 50% more to almost 300, and then this is going to be boosted to about 400 for the special defense. With this, that means we have 50 more on the defenses, well, a little less than 50, and then close to 80 on the special defense. So we just have like a lot more gain overall. And the interesting thing about defensive stat breakdowns, because of the damage calculation formula, is that it's better to have higher defenses than hit points. So say we had like a base 50 hit points with base 100 defenses, that's going to be better than a base 100 hit points with base 50 defenses whenever we're calculating damage. So with this boosting, we are going to be a fair bit tankier than Snorlax, but Snorlax still has an item advantage. After leftovers, we are getting more effective health after a couple of turns, and with Snorlax, we do have Chesto Berry. So Chesto Berry into Chesto Resto with all this setup, it makes it to where it is going to be more reliable setup. But Munchlax, with less reliable setup in the beginning, you know, once Snorlax has consumed its Chesto Berry, it's going to be the same thing, except it's going to be a less tanky Pokemon. So Eviolite stacking with all these defenses and stuff, Munchlax is going to be just more of a wall, which is what if you're looking for more of a wall, and you want to play a little bit more risk, that you know how to play around your opponent's sweepers, that you want to play for that tankiness, you can actually find a lot of success with Munchlax in this way. Now, another drawback is less attack. Snorlax has 110 base attack. Munchlax is only 85, so Snorlax is a lot quicker. That, you know, with that Chesto Berry, it can run into a stockpile, can use Belly Drum, and then it takes off. Munchlax doesn't have to do that, which is why we're going with the Curse Amnesia. And we're also just going to be doing less damage overall, so mostly just going to be in it for the tankiness. And we don't have the heavy, like, fallback of Chesto Berry, so it is going to be riskier in that way. And as for moves, Munchlax doesn't get Crunch. I guess Snorlax is just a hungrier Pokemon that wants to bite down on things. So our very safe damage option, we don't have anymore. And that leaves us with Body Slam, that gets immune by Ghost-type Pokemon, Earthquake, which gets Levitated and Flying-typed, or we also have, like, Fire Punch. Fire Punch, still one of your better options, but if you go against Flash Fire Pokemon, it could hurt your sweep, which is why you just run Water types and try to remove your opponent's Flash Fire Pokemon, find a way to get in with Munchlax, and then you can set up and potentially have a very good time. The reason why Rust works, even though it keeps you asleep for a couple of turns, is because when you get enough tankiness with Amnesia, get enough tankiness with Curse, you become a 4, 5, 6 hit KO Pokemon in some situations. That's almost impossible to knock you down. So in a lot of situations, you wake up, you get to do another sustain boost, or you get to do an offensive attack, then you go back to rest, and then you just wait till you wake up and you get more damage across, and as long as you don't get crit, you should be okay. Now, if we do want to run Munchlax a bit safer, we could probably get rid of Amnesia and then go with Sleep Talk. Sleep Talk is going to make it to where while you're asleep, it'll use another known move that isn't Sleep Talk, so Rest, Curse, or whatever other move. I was thinking Toxic. So with this, we're just going to play to Munchlax as tanky, being more tanky than... So with this, we're going to play to Munchlax being tankier than Snorlax. That we're just going to be your generic stall Pokemon. Sure, you get walled out by Steel. Sure, you get walled out by Poison. But that's not the point here. The point is you can kind of come in whenever you want, set up a Curse, set up a Toxic, and then just kind of stall your opponent out from there. If you want to run Munchlax as a stall Pokemon, just have Pokemon that counter Steel and Poison types on your team. So a little bit more ground, something to play around it like that. Bring in Munchlax when they don't have Steel or Poison to while you get the Toxic down, spread status, and then stall it out. If you get into the hyper late game, you might be able to have Munchlax just kind of burn through the rest of your opponent's team, depending on what their offensive breakdown is for the team. Now, this is where I was thinking things get a bit interesting. So because our special defense is so much higher, we could just go full special defense investment, full hit points investment, maybe knock a couple points off and get that into defense. And now what the idea here is, we're going to use Curse. We're going to use our only defensive boosting to try to get our defenses up as high as possible, because with a 40 base defense, if say we did this the other way around, we had Impish Nature, we maxed out hit points, maxed out defense, and we ran Amnesia, that is a very likely thing that you could do, but it does just have that drawback that your defense isn't going to go any higher. With this, if you get 2 Curse, you should be good to go. You also have more Curse options. Your special defense is going to be super hard to break down, because we have over 400 hit points, 400 special defense. It's going to make you a very, very tanky Pokemon in this regard. Actually, over 400 special defense. So then that means you can just set up the Curses. Once you get in, nothing's going to threaten you. Also, when we're thinking about it, Focus Blast is going to be really the only special attack you have to deal with that's super effective. And with your special defense as high as it is, that could be alright, and it has a good chance of missing. So I'd rather worry about the more common Drain Punches, more common fighting type moves that actually make contact, that you'd want to have 3 or 4 Curses to deal with in that situation. Then you get the Toxic, and you just kind of stall it out from there. So this is another option to Munchlax, but it just shows, Munchlax, tankier than Snorlax. We already know Snorlax is a huge tanky beast, and it's slightly less reliable, but then more reliable once you get your setup to take you out, so it's a really crazy thing. And now let's get on to Riolu. I know you guys are really just here for one of the most crazy movesets in all of Pokemon. This Riolu moveset breaks like 99.9% of the logic I understand in Pokemon, because it just combos so well, and it's so hilarious. So the idea, Brave Nature, as low as an IV that you can get in the speed as possible, just get your speed down super low, and we're going to play off Prankster. So ideally, perfect world situation, Riolu comes in, you use Reversal, but because you're so slow, you get just one shot, absolutely blown up with these low defenses. That's why we have Focus Sash. You survive an attack at 1 hit point, and then Reversal goes off. Reversal goes to 200 base power, gets stabbed 300 base power move. So even with your 70 attack, now that we're boosting it Adamant and whatnot, that's still going to be a very powerful move. I mean, that just outshines Talonflame in damage when we consider it like that. So that's going to be a lot of damage threat right there from the Reversal. And then we use Copycat. So remember, we got hit last, that we are the last Pokemon to move with our monstrous Reversal, and that's what Copycat is for. So with Prankster, Copycat counts as a status move. So because of that, it's going to draw upon the last move used, your Reversal. So now we get 600 base power worth of damage before your opponent can attack you twice, which means definite KO and a lot of neutral KOs. That against something like a Greninja, say Greninja tries to knock you out with like an Extra Sensory or a Scald or a Hydro Pump or something like that, and you use Reversal on it, a neutral hit, that can KO some frail Pokemon like Greninja, and it's also going to be very, very powerful as a super effective hit. The idea here is, with Reversal, you convert a lot of 2-hit KOs, so you score a 2-hit KO just like that, and then you use Copycat again, it draws your Reversal, and then you get extra damage. So either you can use this in the late game, like if you clear entry hazards from the field, and a lot of your opponent's Pokemon have just taken random amounts of damage, Reversal can get a nice cleanup, especially if you have Spikes, Stealth Rocks, or just a little bit of damage across your opponents. But one of the best worst case scenarios, you're going to get a 1-for-1 and a lot of extra damage from that Reversal. It does more than half to quite a lot of Pokemon, and then you just come in for the damage. Or you can take the ultimate gamble and lead Riolu. That's why I have Swords Dance here. That if you anticipate your opponent's going for setup, you set up a Swords Dance, and then you wait for like your reversal thing, so hopefully they have to have a Pokemon that's strong enough to set up entry hazards and still one-hit KO you. Pokemon like Galvantula would be really good to go up against because it goes for the Sticky Web, and then it has a very powerful Thunder that it can use on you. That's definitely going to drop you to Focus Sash. So with that free Swords Dance, you reversal. Because of the Swords Dance, you'll get over the resist that Galvantula has, and maybe just find some ridiculous combos after that. That if you come out of it with your Copycat reversal on a +2, you're going to pretty much get another KO unless they bring in like a Ghost type Pokemon. Naturally, this can be walled out by Ghost types, but overall it's still a very fun, very powerful thing, and it is usage for Riolu, that you can realistically use this in a competitive setting and still have a decent chance of success, which is what matters. Like Munchlax and Riolu, baby Pokemon being used competitively, and that's pretty wicked. Also, speaking of baby Pokemon, they don't suck. Go check out my top 5 baby Pokemon video if you already haven't, link in the description. It's a pretty cool video, and this just shows something I wanted to put in the video, but I wanted to keep this for like a separate thing, you know, just showing Riolu, Munchlax, other baby Pokemon, they can find some strength. Mantike can Eviolite and do a lot of cool things, but overall we have this. And then if you guys are wondering why Bullet Punch, you never know what's going to happen in Pokemon. Maybe they have a Ghost type Pokemon with Focus Sash, like a Focus Sash Gengar, so you want to bring in Riolu and you want to Bullet Punch it down, that way you at least have coverage against it, and then now you can play out the game the rest as possible. Maybe you just win from having Bullet Punch on Riolu for no reason, because you outspeed a Ghost type Pokemon that was sashed, and something like that. As for the EVs, you might think it's weird we're investing special attack, even though we have no special attack. The idea is you're not surviving anything. You don't want to be fast, you just want to be frail. Heck, be one of the first competitive people ever just to run a 252 attack Pokemon. No other EVs anywhere else. Just 252 EVs, win games with it, and call that hilarious because that's really good. And I think that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you all have a nice day. This is some pretty crazy stuff going on right now.